Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your f***ing cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round, I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to another edition of Unscripted on the All Sports All Plays Network. It's your boy, Jay McLovin. This is episode 319. That's right. This is episode number 319. What a time to be alive. With my co-host, the man that was buried in snow but has found his way back to the house and is warm and toasty. My boy, none other than Frankie the Yankee. What's up, baby?
What's going on, Jay? Happy Saturday. Happy weekend. But yeah, as you said, I was buried in snow and I just got out from shoveling. So I made it out of Antarctica / Mount Everest. So we're good. We're good. We're going to have a good show for you guys today, whereas we are getting ready for the draft. But before we start, Jay, I do got some breaking news that just came via Twitter from Adam Schefter that veteran kicker Robbie Gould.
My bad. Hold on, Frank. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Frankie. I apologize.
Veteran kicker Robbie Gould said today that as much as he enjoyed the last 6 seasons in San Francisco, he will be testing free agency later this month and looking to be kicking for a new team in 2023.
Wow. I've always that was Robbie Gould, the Chicago Bears kicker. You're talking about, correct? Yeah. Jesus.
He was the Chicago Bears kicker in the beginning of his career, and in the last 6 seasons, he was with the San Francisco 49ers.
And now he's looking for a new team. Wow. When I think of Gould, that's the first image that comes to my mind is Chicago Bear. I guess that's how I affiliate him, but sometimes you gotta move on, man. The grass ain't always greener. I probably would have stayed with San Francisco, but I like the Bay Area, but what a time to be alive, man. Yeah, like Frankie said, man, we're going to be talking about the draft. We're going to do a little draft breakdown, things of that nature. So we're really going to get into this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I wish Gonzo was here right now because his team's going to be brought up a little bit today. And I think Logan's team is going to get brought up today. Of course, Logan's over with his girlfriend doing his thing, whatever. So, hey, it is what it is. But make sure you check us out on Twitter at Unscripted Guys. Frankie runs it and does a hell of a good job. It's all one word, Unscripted Guys. And then Logan runs our TikTok, Unscripted Sports, all one word. And make sure you also check out the All Sports All Plays ASAP Network app that you can find now on Google Play or Amazon. And eventually it will come to Apple. But right now we're at Google Play and Amazon, and you can get all of our content. They upload it over there as well. And don't forget, we are partnered with BetUS. And I think, Frankie, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you use the ASAP as the code or whatever, you get, a discount off your betting, something to that effect.
Yeah, if you put in ASAP Network, I'm pretty sure it's I think it's 100 and 125. I'm not 100% sure. But it's somewhere up in the 100 range where you'll get a percentage off.
Tell you, man, hey, that first little bet you want to play around with, that's not a bad deal. So make sure you guys check that out as well if you are a gambler. And if you want some betting tips, just check Gonzo out Monday through Friday. I think it's at 3 p.m. Eastern. He's got that easy money, and he will give you the parlays, the betting tips, and everything you need. So make sure you check Gonzo out over there at Gonzo Sports Room, All Sports, All Plays, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. And that will help you with that BetUS bet that you get that 125 off. That will help you in a conjunction with that. So All Sports, All Plays is definitely hooking you up with everything you need to bet and learn on sports. All right, with that being said, let's get into the draft with some breaking news.
Breaking
All
news
right,
in your
hey.
local area. I love that. I love it.
Hey, it's what we do, man. Hey, listen, I'm just saying. I don't really have a lot of breaking news. I'm just going to give you this little tidbit, and then we're going to get into this draft. And what I wanted to talk about was, and it's really more of a shout out than anything else. Alec Murdoch just got the double life sentence over his way to prison right now. They're probably going to keep him in segregation because he's probably going to cry like a baby. They don't want him to get beat up too bad. But Alec, when you're sitting in the break room and you have nothing else better to do with your time, and they give you that little tablet that you can go on the internet with, check us out on Unscripted, man. I think you'll enjoy our content while you're talking with your buddies in Sub Block 6. What a time to be alive, oh Alec Murdoch, man. Jeez, what a shame. Oh,
yeah, and Jay, right after he got sentenced to his 2 life sentencing, he ended up going to prison with a new haircut. The man is now bald. No more blonde Alec Murdoch. The man is now bald Alec Murdoch.
man, listen. Hey, when you go to prison, hey, listen. I used to be a prison guard. All I can tell Alec is keep your head down and don't say nothing to nobody. And when they come by for your tray, just give it to them. Don't put up a fight, Alec, because that's not you. You're not built for that. God. Hey, real quick, Frankie, I did see on one of the chat groups there. Is it true when I saw that Ja Morant was flashing a gun on Instagram? Is that true, or was that just rumored hearsay?
No, that is true news. It was even reported from I forgot the guy's name from Twitter on NBA. He did go on Instagram and he did flash his weapon, and I'm pretty sure it's the same weapon from 2017 incident where he slapped a 17-year-old kid and or actually had a fight with a 17-year-old kid, and apparently walked into the to the 17-year-old's apartment and ended up flashing his gun as well. I don't know if he flashed it or it came with news saying that he was actually holding it while it was still on his waistband. So it is the same weapon, and it is being investigated by both Memphis and the NBA right now.
Wow. I tell you, man, Frank, I just don't get it, man. I don't get how you can have so much talent and, making all this money. And I get it, man. Hey, money's not everything. I mean, it doesn't make you mature. But at some level, man, somebody's got to rescue Ja from himself. I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody needs to go speak to that young man. That's not his dad, certainly not his mom. Some independent party needs to pull this young man aside, whether it be his agent or whoever, and they need to get this man back on the right track.
I agree. I really agree. And I honestly 100% agree with you. I don't think he should be getting any advice or anything from his dad, because I feel like the reason he's like this is because of his dad. We've seen his dad on the sidelines of many games, and we see how hyped up he gets, how much shit talking he does, excuse my language, or trash talking he does. And if that's the way that Ja Morant was grown up to be, then he's gonna have a lot of problems in the near future. I mean, you're already twice within literally, I think, a 5-day span. We've been hearing news of you with a weapon. One from 2017 that was not in the public's eye yet, and then now in 2023 where you're just going on Instagram flashing your weapon around. I mean, that's not a smart move if you're a young talented star like Ja Morant, who is actually potentially the Memphis Grizzlies franchise player. And that's not a smart move on his case. So I do agree with you. I think the guy does need some type of help, but getting it from his dad is clearly not the answer.
I wonder how long it's going to be, though, before whatever – I know Powerade, I guess, is one of them – before them endorsements start dropping him. Because you got to imagine this is not the look, that a brand would want, right? I mean, he's just not doing things that are brand worthy,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, look at what happened with Kyrie Irving, right? He didn't want to play in the NBA, and then he lost his shoe deal and everything like that. Now you got John Morant within the 5-day span of hearing about this gun related incident, and he's still, he's gonna lose a lot of endorsements, Jay, shoe brands and everything.
Yeah, again, man. Hey, listen, I'm not here to bash John Morant. I'm just here to say, Ja, if you do catch this, or somebody you know catches and talks to you about it, just know that, man, brother. Hey, we want you to be successful, and what you're doing right now is not helping that. And we want you to get the help so you can get your career back on track and do the things that you need to do to be successful, not only for yourself but for your family and community, man. So all we're doing is saying, bro, let's get it together and get back to basketball, man. Which is where your talents are best suited for. Let's go. All right, man. Enough of this craziness, man. We're gonna get into this draft, man. Frankie, let's talk some quarterbacks first of all. You know what? Yeah. Let's talk about these quarterbacks. Let's break them down just a little bit, and then we'll get into some trades, and then we'll get into the actual draft selection. But before we get to the actual selection process, man, let's talk about these quarterbacks for a minute and what you think about each one and where you think each one should go. I have seen reports where it has Young listed at 6 foot even. I've seen reports where he's listed at 5'10" and 1/8. I love that 1/8. They got his weight now at 206 pounds, whereas before he was around the 194 weight. So he's put on a little bit of weight, kind of beefed up that body, about 6 or 7 pounds, which I think, a 5'10", 205, 206, muscle, that's about where that frame should be. So I think his weight is proportionate now with where his height is. But the knock on him is his size and is his durability. That's the knock on Bryce Young. He had some hell of seasons though, so I don't know how much stock we should put into that. Again, 2022, the man put up around 3,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That is a damn good season. And then the year before that, he put up 4,872 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 picks. So, and of course, before that, he was just spot playing, right? That's when Matt Brown was all over there. So, Mac Jones, I don't want to say Matt Brown. Mac Jones was there. So, that kind of, he didn't really come into effect until after Jones left. But for his career at the University of Alabama, he's got 79 touchdowns and only 12 interceptions. I mean, that's incredible, man. I mean, and that's not just some Joe Schmo University. I mean, this is in the SEC at Alabama. Now, he does have weapons around him, but still, man, to the decision-making that he has, the durability, I know is an issue. The size is an issue. But again, he's 24-3 in 2 seasons at Alabama. I think he has great leadership, and I think he has good confidence that you would want in your quarterback. So just on Young alone, how do you see Young? I mean, what do you think his strengths and weaknesses are in your eyes?
Honestly, I think his strength would be his passing attempts. He's got a really good arm. But he did have an injury last year, so how perfect can that arm be in the NFL? I want to say his weakness is running out of the pocket. I've seen him many times on Alabama. You know how big of a fan of Alabama I am because of Nick Saban. So I watched this kid a lot, and his running out of the pocket scheme is not 100%. And I think that's where it's going to, affect him a little bit. Hopefully he can get to a team that has a good offensive line for him, so that way he has the amount of time in the pocket to find an open receiver, or at least, throw the ball out of bounds to give yourself an extra down or something like that. Also, he's not a good fast runner, Jay. He's not a fast running quarterback. I understand that's what, we're looking at in this league nowadays is running quarterbacks that can move with both arms and legs. But I don't see Bryce Young being a quarterback that's mobile on the field with using his legs. Don't get me wrong. He can run the ball if he wants to. He's just not a speedy running quarterback like a Jalen Hurts or a Lamar Jackson. Like he can end up being like a Patrick Mahomes in the running game by himself, maybe.
Right.
But that's why I see his strengths and weaknesses for me. His strength is his arm system, where he got a good chance of throwing the ball deep. to compare to his weakness is going to be his legs for me.
Yeah, I will say compared to other quarterbacks in his draft, from what I've watched Bryce Young play, especially when he played in that Texas game and a few others, I thought his mobility and his creativeness under pressure, I thought it was a little bit better than the other ones in the draft class. I'm not saying that, like you said, compared to a Lamar Jackson or even Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
He may not be at that level, but I think his mobility and creativity under pressure is a little bit better than some of the other guys in the draft, with the exception of Max Duggan. I think Max Duggan's creativity and running outside the pocket is probably the only guy in the draft class that I think truly, has a little bit better feet work or a little bit of mobility than Bryce Young. But I think Bryce Young is still, with his arm and the little bit of mobility he does have and creativity he does have, for me, I got him over Stroud and a few other guys in that specific category. I don't know how you look at that.
No, I can agree with you at some of those points, but I always look at it as the college level is always different from the NFL level.
Oh, absolutely.
You're a rookie quarterback coming into the league where you have to face really hard defensive linemen. For example, you got to deal with a Clowney if he's playing. You have to deal with the Myles Garrett. You have to deal with T.J. Watt, Chris Jones. You got to deal with all these people that are literally a beast name. Aaron Donald alone, if he decides to return to the NFL, because we've been hearing a couple of years now from when he won the Super Bowl or the year before he won the Super Bowl that he was planning on retiring soon. So that's another, name that you have to look at if you're going to be a quarterback coming into this league. He can be a mobile quarterback, Jay, but that just being in the experience of the NFL level, I just don't think it's going to work out for him, because Mac Jones was a mobile quarterback in the college league when he didn't have receivers downfield. He will run the ball, and he's not a fast runner, But compared to coming into the NFL, he's not a mobile quarterback. He doesn't run. He'll rather take a sack, throw an interception, or throw the ball away. He's not mobile, and that's because there's a different system in the NFL league rather than the NCAA college football league.
And the thing about that too is, again, one of the knocks on him is his size. Now, if you want to put him at 6 foot, I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to put him at 5'10" and 1/8, okay, I'm not going to argue with that either. I mean, it's a couple of inches, whatever the case may be. The point I'm trying to make is, there are certain quarterbacks that come into the league undersized that just don't matriculate. I think Johnny Yu was probably the perfect candidate of an undersized quarterback that just couldn't make it. Outside of Manziel, though, you look at a guy like Drew Brees, and you look at Drew Brees when he was with San Diego, horrible, not just, couldn't get anything going truthfully there. So they trade him over to Sean Payton over at the Saints, and Sean gets a hold of this guy. And I've always said Sean Payton is probably one of the best coaches that is able to develop a quarterback that I've ever seen. Winston, you saw what he did with that kid, before Sean left. And, of course, you saw what he did with Drew Brees and how well he developed Drew Brees into what Drew Brees is. I mean, at Drew Brees' size, which is shorter than Bryce Young, we all saw how great of a quarterback Drew Brees went on to become. So, I mean, even though size is a knock on him, I don't think that's anything in this thing that should be a deterrent from a club choosing him at number one if they so choose to do so. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do agree. I think, being that tall, it gives you extra leg, to run the ball a little bit better. But I don't think he's, going to be that quick. He's going to be a quarterback that can get yards because of his legs, being so long. But because his legs are so long and he's so tall, he's not going to be a fast quarterback. I think the smaller people are the fastest, and honestly, because you got small legs, but you got speed to those.
Yeah, let me ask you this before we move on to the next quarterback, which will be C.J. Stroud. We'll get into him in a sec. Do you think that with Bryce Young not throwing at the combine, I don't even know if he's going to throw at a pro day. With him basically saying, I'm not throwing, but I'll do your medical, I'll do your interviews, things like that. Is that going to affect his draft stock at all, the fact that he's not going to showcase his talent there?
I think so a little bit. I mean, there's scouts head coaches, GMs, they're going there to see you. So how they expect, that they're going to want to sign you if they can't see what you're going to bring? I mean, they're not going to want to see tapes. They're already seeing your tapes. They're already seeing what you can do on the field. They want to see you in person, seeing your arm strength, seeing your passing abilities and everything like that, and you're not showing them that. So I think it's going to knock him down in the draft a little bit, but not really that far. He's still going to be in the top 5, but he was expected to be a number 1 draft pick. He still could be the number 1 draft pick, but I think, you need to change your mind, Bryce Young, and decide that, you got to show your talents to these scouts and these coaches and the GMs. Like, if you need to do what Zach Wilson did and just do something by yourself.
Yeah, me personally, I always have an issue when somebody doesn't want to throw the ball at a combine. That's your job. Your job is to throw the ball. And if you're scared to throw the ball at a combine because you think it's going to hurt for your draft stock, if that is his thought process, then I don't want him as a quarterback to begin with. I want that guy that has that confidence, knows who he is, knows what he's about. Not I don't want a timid guy. I want it, like you said, I want that guy. And if he's not going to throw at the combine, and that's the job that's what you're supposed to do at your job is throw. I don't care about seeing you run. I'm not paying you to be a running back. I want to see you make the throws. I want to see if you got location, if you got touch, if you got timing, if you can read defense. When you make your throws, I want to see all those things. And if you're afraid to do that in front of me, that's a clear indicator that you're not my guy. Let's talk real quick. Anthony Price is basically coming in today and saying who's the quarterback on the right in green? I don't know, man. Look, I didn't make the graphic. I'd have to go back and look at Carolina. I don't know nothing about that kid. To be honest, I don't know that kid. That was just part of the graphic. I was trying to find a graphic that had all the main quarterbacks that I was talking about today, but I could not find that graphic. This is the closest I could get to it, Anthony, so I apologize. Young is throwing in the pro day, not the combine. I get that. If you want to throw at the pro day, that's fine. I don't understand why you're not throwing at both, Anthony. Why are you not throwing at both? Are you scared to throw at the combine because you want to go to a pro day where you can basically draft or you can basically script the throws that you're going to do? I don't want to see a scripted day to you. I want to see all of everything. And that's why I thought the combine, for me, if you're not throwing at the combine, I kind of have an issue with that because that means there's certain throws that maybe you're scared to make and you think could diminish your draft stock. So take that for what it is. Moving on to C.J. Stroud real quick out of Ohio. He's a little bit more prototypical size, Frankie, right? He's 6'3", 218 pounds. Had a hell of a good day against Georgia, that one game. Remember where he just went off on Georgia?
Yeah.
But if you look at his stats, I mean, again, this is another guy that doesn't turn the – oh, by the way, that's another positive I did want to mention about Bryce Young is the fact that he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and I love that. Coming from a guy who has had Dak Prescott as your quarterback, and we had 15 interceptions last season, I can appreciate a guy who only throws 6 in a season. Now, again, to Frankie's point, that's college, not the pros. But still, that's a pretty good start. But this is another guy that doesn't turn the ball over a lot, right? Stroud doesn't turn the ball over a lot. 2022, he had 3,600 roughly yards, 41 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And then in 21, he did 4,400 yards at 44 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, which gives him roughly about 80-plus touchdowns. 85 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So, I mean, again, for his career, guys just, lighten it up pretty good. Now, he also has had another guy who's had good weapons, right? I mean, Garrett Wilson, Najiba, or however you say that guy's name. I mean, he's had some weapons there. But I like his completion rate. His completion rate is at 69.1. That's damn near 70% completion rate. But you're only turning the ball over 12 times in your career. Hey, I'm good with that. And again, this is an Ohio quarterback that I typically don't like. Justin Fields is kind of, he's probably one of the better ones that's come out of Ohio. Stroud will probably be one of the better ones, but typically Ohio has not put out good quarterbacks in the draft. But he does throw the ball better than anyone in the draft. C.J. Stroud has a very good ball. He's perfect in the pocket. He can make all the throws. Like I said earlier, he's got the touch, the timing, ball placement. He can read the defense fairly well. The con to him, in my opinion, is mobility. Like Frank said earlier, again with C.J. Stroud, mobility is kind of an issue with him. I think he played in the Peach Bowl. And I think he had a hard time handling the pressure in the Peach Bowl. I think he does kind of panic a little bit under pressure, but those are kind of the knocks on C.J. Stroud. Not a whole lot, but I think mobility is more of, I guess, like you were saying earlier about Young. He has kind of that same issue. But again, Stroud is still a really good, solid pick if you decide to go with him, in my opinion. Frank?
Yeah, I agree. I think C.J. Stroud can give you some solid wins. Turnovers, yeah, he didn't have really much turnovers in college, and that's really high on certain teams when they look at that. But like Jay said, and like I said earlier, it's NFL's level is different from college. You're going against some of the top pros, all pros, people who's been in the Pro Bowl, people who's actually won Super Bowls or been to Super Bowls. It's different in the pro levels, but for C.J. Stroud to have numbers the way he does for a college player, you're gonna get looked at as a good quarterback. I think he brings a good system of himself into a decent team, depending on which team is gonna take a toll on him. I think he'll be a good quarterback. Some people don't think he's gonna be a good quarterback because, let's be realistic, Jay, Ohio State quarterbacks, when they come into the NFL, they're not really, good. They don't play good. They don't look good. It's just, I don't know what's with it. But I think he'll change that, and I think he'll do something great. I mean, look at Kyler Murray. He was an Ohio State quarterback, or no, he was Oklahoma Sooner, right?
Yeah.
He was Oklahoma Sooner. Never mind. You can't compare that anymore. But, I think he'll do good in the NFL. I mean, he'll hopefully. And honestly, Jay, I got him projected to go to the Indianapolis Colts. That's if the Colts trade with the Bears to get the number 1 pick. If they do that, I think C.J. Stroud's going to go number 1 to the Indianapolis Colts. If he doesn't, then he's going to go number 4 to the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's just going to go to the Colts no matter what, because I got what's his name, Bryce Young going to Houston.
Oh no, we're not there yet, Frankie. We gonna go. Hey, we got a whole topic on just that alone. All we're doing right now, we're just giving our thoughts on the quarterback themselves. Well, we haven't got we're ranking them yet. We'll get there.
I got C.J. Stroud being a good quarterback in the NFL. I think he'll be great. Just the turnovers, I think he'll have way more turnovers than he did in college level. But I think he'll be decent.
The next quarterback I want to take a look at real quick is Levis out of Kentucky. Will Levis out of Kentucky. Again,
he's a sleeper.
He's the prototypical size. Matter of fact, he is the prototypical size that you want at quarterback. He's built a lot like a linebacker. He's actually built a lot like Culpepper. Culpepper was a really big quarterback, and also Roethlisberger was a really large size quarterback. And Levis is the same way. The guy's 6'3", Frankie, at 232 pounds, and it ain't fat. This dude is built like a linebacker, but he runs like a freaking wide receiver. Like this dude, he's got all the physical tools that you want, right? But again, his decision making is an issue. Now, we looked at the first 2 quarterbacks, in Stroud and Young, and we were talking about how they don't turn the ball over a lot. Now, this guy will turn the ball over. In 2022, he threw for 2,400 yards, gave you 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And then in 21, he gave you 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But again, this is a running quarterback. So, he rushed for 376 yards last season, and he had 9 touchdowns there. So roughly he's about a 28 to 3,000 all-purpose yard guy. And he'll give you probably a good solid 25, 26 touchdowns, maybe even close to 30 in some cases. But again, he's going to turn the ball over 10 to 15 times.
Jay, you know who you're mentioning? Jay, you know who you're mentioning right now? Instead
Dak
of
Prescott?
saying Will, no. I'm not that disrespectful. No, I'm trying to be professional. But Will Levis, everything you're saying right now, he's sounding like a Cam Newton.
It's funny you said that. That's exactly who a lot of people have compared him to is Cam Newton. So it's funny that you said
it sounds like that. It sounds like it because everything that you just mentioned. He's a mobile quarterback. He got nine touchdowns running on alone. He turns the ball over a lot, but he can get you your yards. That sounds exactly like Cam Newton in his prime.
Absolutely. And again, this guy is tough when it comes to injuries. He's a tough kid. I guess, like you said, like Cam Newton, he's a dual threat guy. He can make the throws. He can. He's got a cannon. He has a cannon for an arm. The guy has strength. And he did have a bad O-line last year, so I think that's why he ran it for a lot more. His overall record was 17-7. But again, the cons to him is he turns the ball over. I think he's had 23 career interceptions, and he's had 3 fumbles. So my issue with Levis is as much talent and physical talent that he has, his decision-making for him is the biggest downfall. So anybody who drafts a guy like Levis, the biggest thing you're going to have to work on with him is his decision-making. And if you can get his decision-making to come in alignment with his talent, well, now you can be talking about, a serious guy. I think Levis could be even in some cases, maybe even like Josh Allen, because he does have a cannon and he is mobile. But, again, you're going to have to work on his decision-making if you really want this guy to be truly successful at the next level. Frank, I think you is there anything else you want to say about Levis before we move on to Max Duggan?
No, I'm all good with Will Levis.
All right, so the next guy I want to kind of talk about is a guy out of TCU that went up against Georgia. Unfortunately, he did not have a good game against Georgia in the national title. But he is a good, solid quarterback in terms of his physical attributes. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. So he's a little bit bigger than Bryce Young. His 2022 campaign.
Sorry, Jay.
He threw for 3,698 yards. He gave you 32 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And in the 4 years, because he is a senior, he graduated as a senior, and in the 4 years when he graduated, he had a total of 28 interceptions in 4 years. So if you divide 28 by 4, that's an average of seven turnovers a season. Again, another guy who I think has good decision-making, has incredible heart, things of that nature. Again, he doesn't turn the ball over. He has good passion. He has good leadership. He's tough. And I think he handles adversity pretty well. If you want a good example of handling adversity, go back and look at the Kansas State game. Now, they lost that game in overtime. But if you look at what he did to get them to overtime, you'll see how well he handles adversity. The pro is his arm strength, his elusiveness. He's fast. He gets the ball out pretty quick, and he plays with confidence. But the con is that he still needs to work on his mechanics, his footwork. He's averaging the long ball, and occasionally he will lock in on a wide receiver. So he's going to have to learn how to scan better and not lock in. But that's pretty much where I have Max Duggan. I think he's a little bit of a project. I think he's probably going to go second, maybe third round. And I would not be surprised if the Cowboys do pick him up, because I have heard reports where McCarthy really has a soft spot for this guy. Frankie?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Max Duggan, he did have a phenomenal season last year. Let's be realistic. He had a great season. But, he had that terrible game against Georgia in the national championship game, and I don't think that, teams are gonna look away at that. Let's be real. Georgia was just literally the top team in college football last year. Nobody beat them. Nobody. So you can't put that on Max. He still played a phenomenal game in the championship. It was just bad for him because he had to go against the top dogs in Georgia. I think teams will look at him as just because of what he did throughout the season, not because of the championship game. You know, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be a great quarterback in the NFL. Everything you like, what you just said. Um, he's not fully mobile, but once you get into the system of the NFL and you get into that quarterback's room and you have your quarterback coach talking to you and stuff, and off season comes around, that's where you start learning. That's where you start
Right.
teaching yourself and you start changing the game of your play style because people are going to look at you like once you get drafted, other teams are going to study you. Other teams are going to see what's your weakness and what's your greatness. And if you
Right.
can go and you can change what your weakness is and turn that into greatness, now you have two greatnesses going into the NFL, and now you're confusing teams when you come up to play them.
Oh,
So I think
absolutely.
that I think once he goes into that quarterback's meeting, he just starts learning with a quarterback coach. Hopefully, he has a good quarterback coach and a good offensive coordinator in the NFL. Maybe he can learn some new things and change his game differently.
I got to be honest with you. If I'm Max Duggan, I'm probably praying and hoping with every ounce of my body that Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos would pick my ass up. I would be ecstatic because I think Sean Payton, you give Sean Payton this guy, and Sean Payton's going to have a star come out in the NFL. He's going to be a star, and he can sit behind Wilson. Wilson's an aging quarterback. He's got a few more years left in the league, which is perfect for Max Duggan because Max Duggan can sit behind him, learn the nuances of the game, listen to a guy who's great at development like Sean Payton. And when Wilson's time is done, I can slide up into that quarterback spot, and I'm ready to roll, baby. And I'm telling you, I think a coach like Sean Payton could do wonders for a kid like Max Duggan who has the tools, but he just needs to be, polished and, and developed. And I think this guy could be amazing. So it's going to be dependent on who picks him up as to, who, like you said earlier, what coordinator gets a hold of him, what head coach gets a hold of him. But I think he's a diamond in the rough. And if you can polish up that diamond, I think you can have something there. I really honestly do. The last quarterback we'll take a look at, and then we'll talk about some possible trades, and then we'll get in the actual ranking 1 through 10 in a sec. So the last quarterback we'll look at is Anthony Richardson. He's 6'4", Frankie, so he's the tallest in the draft. He's, again, 232 pounds, so this guy's big. He's quick, too. He runs a 4.48 in the 40-yard dash. And, again, he's built. He's a big guy. He's another Culpepper. He's built big. He's got great feet. He's mobile. He can throw on the run. He's good on bootlegs. He's able to scan the field. He's got a quick release. And he's got good ball placement on short and intermediate routes where he does tend to, I guess, the con on him is when he gets under pressure, he tends to throw off his back foot. So that's really what kind of hurts him. And I'll tell you, on those long balls, I think it hurts him as well in terms of his accuracy. That's really kind of the con. Decision-making, needs to work on reading defense. Mechanics, his mechanics are either hit or miss. Like I said, if you put him under pressure, he tends to throw out that back foot, which tends to throw off his accuracy, and that's why I think his mechanics are hit or miss. Again, he fades and throws off that back foot under pressure. He's inaccurate. He's strong. He's a strong guy, but he's inconsistent as a passer. So I think, his upside is the mobility, throwing on the run. But again, this is a kid who needs a lot of work. He's not going to be a right-away guy. You're going to have to really put some development into him if you want him to be successful. Frankie?
This is a guy that I will suggest the Denver Broncos pick up because everything you said that for the previous quarterback and Will Levis or whoever.
Oh, no, you talking about Duggan?
Yeah, Duggan.
Yeah.
I think this is the guy that Sean Payton should pick up. He can learn under. Gosh, she's so loud. You can.
Hey, don't talk about my
behind,
nieces. They can be as loud as they want.
You can. You can learn behind Russell Wilson. Learn with the quarterback, and learn with the head coach of Sean Payton. Also you're sitting back a couple of years and learning everything. I think it'll be great. The one thing that gets me with Richardson, and I'm looking at it right now, is his passing percentage. He completed 176 completions compared to 327 attempts. That's a 53.8% of passer rating. That's not good. That's to me that's not good. You're not you know you're
Yeah, no,
not
I agree.
bad. You're not bad, but you're also not good. And that's what proves what you just said is when he's under pressure, he throws off the back foot. And it's
Right.
honestly, he's either throwing an interception or he's just not completing his passes with a receiver or he's just throwing the ball away. And that ruins your percentage. And then people are going to look at that and say, well, he doesn't look like a guy that would throw the ball real consistency. Like he's not going to be good. You got a total yards last year, 2,549 yards. You threw for 212.4 yards a game, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions with a rate of 131. They're going to look at that and realize that, he's a good quarterback, but he's not great. And I think he's going to have to take a couple of years to learn behind a good quarterback like a Russell Wilson or someone even better, maybe, hopefully. I wouldn't even be mad if this guy learned behind either Tua Tagovailoa or maybe even learn behind Ryan Tannehill with the Tennessee Titans. You got to put somebody. That's what he's going to be, Jay. He's going to be a quarterback that's going to ride the bench for a couple of years to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now I want to kind of move into real quick. I want to talk about some trades. Some possible
Anthony
trades.
Richardson is like a Jalen Hurts. Stop it. Stop it right now.
Hey, I think that's a bit of a stretch on Anthony Price's part, but hey, teach his own, man. In these first 10 picks, there could be quite a few trades being made in these first 10, if not even the first 15, I believe. Some of the picks I see, I think the Bears are going to trade, obviously down out of that number one spot, and I think the Texans could pick up that number one spot if they really feel strongly enough about Bryce Young or CJ, and they don't want nobody else to grab them. I think the Bears could also trade down to like what you were saying as well, Frankie. They could trade down to number 4 with the Colts, and I think the top defender will still be there for the Bears, whether it be Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. I think one of those guys are going to be there for them to tack on to that defense. I think the Texans could send picks from the Watson trade over to the Bears as well to help facilitate getting that number 1 pick without necessarily having to give up the Texans number 12 pick. And I think the Texans could keep that 12 pick, trade up some of those picks they got from the Watson trade, and facilitate getting that number 1 spot as well, which will still keep the Texans in really good spots. I think they could pick up Bryce Young at the number 1 or Stroud, depending on who they feel strongest about. And then I think they drop down to 12 and pick up a really great wide receiver to hopefully convince Brandon Cooks to stay, paired up on the other side of Brandon Cooks. And you already know you got Pierce as your running back. Now we're talking about a really, really good couple of threats for the quarterback to throw to, and you got a good running game. So I think that could really work in their advantage. Colts, I think, could send the first and second round picks this year to the Bears in their attempt to get the quarterback that they're looking at. I think the Seahawks, they got the number 5 pick. We all know that Carroll has never had a pick since he's been there in the top 5. All of Pete Carroll's picks have been in the low to mid 20s. So Carroll has got his hands full on what to do with this 5 pick. They already got Geno Smith. They're already working in on a long-term deal with Geno, and we all know how well Geno's playing, for crying out loud. I think he was number 1 in completions, number 6 in QBR last year. So this guy he's really playing well. So if they do feel like at number 5 they can move up and grab a Stroud or grab a Young and put him behind Geno, because Geno is 30, and maybe that's their next quarterback in the future, I can see them doing that as well. I could also see Pete doing the least sexy of that, which would be the Seahawks trade down, like Anthony Price is saying, and I think they pick up extra picks to bolster the offensive line, to maybe bolster up that defense a little bit better. Maybe they got a great running back and great wide receiver, so they don't really need help there. So again, I think Seahawks go a number of ways. Let it be known that Carroll has publicly come out and said that he is totally connected to the quarterbacks in this draft. And again, if you're totally connected and you really want your guy, don't be surprised if you see the Seahawks try to trade up as well. Again, I think they got a total of 10 picks, the Seahawks do in this draft. So they got plenty of capital to fluctuate where they need to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if they trade down for more picks. And I wouldn't be surprised if they traded up Frankie and tried to get the quarterback that I think they're trying to covet to replace Geno when Geno is done. So the Seahawks, in my mind, they're the wild horse, right? Because you don't know which way they're going to go. And I think you look at the Giants. I think they make some trades with the Ravens to get that number 22 pick. I think the Giants are really trying to bolster up that secondary, and I think they look at possibly quarterback Devin Witherspoon in a trade or to get that at that spot. I think the Ravens will get the 25th pick plus an additional third rounder from the Giants to get the 6th round pick as well from the Giants. So I think there's going to be some trades there between the Ravens and Giants to maneuver. And I think Seattle possibly could trade with Buffalo for that 27th pick to help bolster up some of their needs on the defensive front. So those are some of the trades. I think the Seahawks trade. I think the Giants trade. I think the Colts, Texans, I think they all make moves all within those first 10 picks. But Frankie, what do you think? Who do you think trades and does what? Oh Lord, Frankie disappeared on me.
My bad. No, my bad.
Oh, you're good.
I'm over here watching the Bruins and New York Rangers game, so it's a little intense. It's a little rivalry, and they can't stop fighting. But I think the Chicago Bears trade the number 1 pick to the Indianapolis Colts for R.J. White, the number 4 pick, the number 36 pick, the number 80 pick, and a 2024 first-round pick as well, also as a 2024 second-round pick. The Colts will be giving up a lot to the Bears, but that's for a number one pick. Obviously, it's going to be asking for a lot. But for the Colts, if you want to get a quarterback, you got to do what you got to do to get that number 1 pick to make sure you get your quarterback for the future of your franchise. And I think with that, that's what's going to happen. The Colts are going to trade up for the number 1 pick and give up all those away. For the second one, I think the Houston Texans, I think they stick at number 2. They might get something out of it, but I don't think the Bears are going to want to give the Texans the number 1 pick because, let's be real, Jay, I don't think the Texans have anything that the Bears are going to want. I mean, the Bears at the moment are going to look for picks, but the Houston Texans don't want to dig themselves in a deeper hole that they're already in. I mean, the Texans end up giving away so many picks to get that number 1. What's the point? You're supposed to be rebuilding your team. If you're going to give away all your future picks in this year and next year, you're basically saying, okay, well, we're gonna be rebuilding for the next 5 years. And I don't think teams are going to want to do that. Teams or players.
Right. No, I fully understand what you're saying. I fully agree with that. I mean, because let's be honest, if you're Houston, unless you just know something about Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, because I do think the Texans take a quarterback this draft.
Obviously, yeah.
But what we're going to talk when we get to the actual draft, I'm going to talk about some things that the Texans could maybe do that might surprise us as well. But for right now, since we're talking, just kind of like, first, I feel, or since we're talking about trades, I'm sorry, I feel like the Texans, depending on how strongly they feel about about that number 1 pick in terms of if they're going to go with Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, I think that could influence them. Me personally, if I'm the Texans, if I'm DeMeco Ryans, I'm not trading up. I'm going to stay right there at number 2, like you said. I'm going to stay at number 2. And if I get C.J. Stroud, okay, great. I can work with C.J. Stroud. We can make this happen, right? We can develop his inconsistencies where we need to. And if you get Bryce Young, same thing. Hey, that's great. We can work with, either one of those 2 quarterbacks, will be successful quarterbacks in this league. I really believe both of them will be. And it is a matter of which team they go to be successful with. But I don't think I'm going to give up extra picks. Like you said, Frankie, when I can get one or two great quarterbacks at the number 2 spot and then use those extra picks like we were talking about from the Browns and so forth. Because, they got the second pick, they got the 12th pick, they got Cleveland's picks. I mean, they got a lot of stuff to work with. And let's be honest, the Texans have a lot more needs than just that quarterback spot. Now, again, you can get a good quarterback at 2. You got the 12th spot to get a good receiver. Then you got all those other picks that you can address your O-line, your D-line, whatever it is you need to do. But to get, like you said, to give up picks just to move up one spot, I don't think I'd do that. I think that's suicide.
Yeah, it makes no sense. So I think Houston will stay at number 2. I don't think Arizona will trade. I think they're fine at number 3. And like I said, the Chicago Bears will trade back with the Colts to get the number 4 spot. Seattle got that 5th spot from Denver Broncos with this Russell Wilson trade. I do think, I think Carolina did a trade with the Detroit Lions when they gave, I think, who they give? I think it was Moore, DJ Moore. They gave DJ Moore to the Detroit Lions. So Carolina's got the number 6 pick. I can see the Las Vegas Raiders maybe trading with the Carolina Panthers just to go up one spot, and the Panthers move back one. I think in between the 6th and 7th spot we'll see 2 quarterbacks go away in there as well. I do project to see at least 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks within the top 10 realistically, Jay. I think Atlanta stays at the number 8 spot because they're also in needs as well. Detroit will get the number 9 spot with the trade from Carolina, with the Philadelphia 76ers having the 10th spot. Or look at me, the Philadelphia 76ers is a bad spot.
I know. I was like, oh my God, he is so discombobulated right now.
Yeah, I am. The Philadelphia Eagles will have the number 10th spot from the New Orleans Saints from when they made that trade with the Saints. But I don't think Philly's gonna stick with that number 10 spot. Honestly, I think they'll make a trade probably with it's not gonna be a rival or anything like that. I can see maybe for Philly for that 10 spot. It's really confusing because you got to look at what teams really need. I think maybe they can trade with Tennessee, maybe with Houston. Houston can make a trade and do a trade swap. The Eagles will move back 2, and then Houston could get 2 picks in the top 10, right? I mean, that'll be good,
right?
And have Houston be at the number 2 and number 10 instead of being at 2 and 12. You'll have the Eagles at 12, and you have Houston at number 10. So I think the Houston Texans can make a draft swap. Maybe the Jets. I could see the Jets moving up as well because they have the 13th pick. Maybe they can get in the top 10 and make a swap pick with the Eagles. Because realistically, the Eagles don't need much. I mean, they just made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand they do have 9 to 12 free agents coming up. And they do, Jason Kelce is probably and possibly retiring this year. So they do need a center. But Philly doesn't need to focus right now on a draft pick in the top 10. They can get a center in free agency, no doubt about it. But I think they'll probably make a swap pick with either the Jets or the Houston Texans.
No, absolutely. And again, when we talk about the Raiders have come out and said that they possibly could trade up to 1 because they do like CJ Stroud a lot. So
yeah, but if the Raiders do that, Jay, the real question is who they're giving up and how many other picks are they giving up? Because
true. Because right now they're drafted at 7. I don't know, man. I mean, they could make the trade with the Bears, obviously, and I do think they could give them the number 7 spot. I think Bears could slide back to 7, but if they're going to have to tie in other picks to go along with that, I think if they want to get that number 1 spot, they'd have to give them the number 7 pick this year. And then they have to give them their first round pick next year, I think, in order to make that work.
Yeah, and if I'm the Bears, I'm looking at offense, right? Because that's their one mistake from this past year was offense.
Right.
We've seen Justin Fields run the ball so many times. He didn't have open receivers, so he needs some receivers. If I'm the Bears and the Raiders want to get the number 1 pick, You try and fight to try and get Devontae Adams. If you can't get Devontae Adams, guess what? Get Darren Waller. Those are the top 2 picks that I'll be looking at for the Raiders if they try to, get up for the number 1 spot, because you know that the Bears they're gonna get future round picks. That's
and I don't think
about it. If you're not a hardcore football fan like me and Jay are, we'll tell you this right now. Anytime a team has the number 1 pick, other teams are going to come in and give you a lot of picks for that number 1 pick. A lot of picks. You're going to swap a first-round pick, no doubt about it. You're going to have to give away a couple of more picks within that year, plus probably 2, maybe even 3 more picks in the next year. So they're going to be looking for a lot of picks. But if I'm the Bears and then the Raiders are coming at me with an offer for the first-round pick, I'm getting a big-name receiver out of there. Darren Waller, Devontae Adams. Hell, I would even go for Henry Renford. Like, I will even go for him. You need somebody. You need one of those 3 to get you over the hump and giving Justin Fields some help.
No, I agree. We'll talk more about that on this next topic because that's when we're actually going to start ranking these guys, and there's going to be a lot of things to talk about there too. I got to be honest with you, Frankie. If I'm the Raiders, there are 3 guys that I consider on that team untouchable. One's Max Crosby. Number 2 is Darren Waller, and number 3 is Devontae Adams. That's what I'm building around. And I, like you said, I don't think I move up. I think I stay where I'm at number 7. And of course, I'll tell you who I think they get, but I think you keep your draft picks, and I think you continue to build that team. And I think you bring in Garoppolo. I think you bring in Jimmy G because he works in well with what's his name, Josh McDaniels. He already knows that offense. You probably get him at a pretty good price. You might have to spend a lot for him, and I think you continue rolling. So
the Brewers just scored again. What a time to be alive! What a time to be alive! 2-0. They're up 2-0 on the New York Rangers. And Jay, to make it even better, the New York Rangers were on a power play, so that means they were up an extra man. They had 5 men on the ice, and we had 4, and we scored on them.
What a time to be alive, baby! What a time. Let's get into these draft picks, these 1 through 10s that we're talking about. I'm going to give you my 1 through 10, Frankie. You give me your 1 through 10, and then we'll talk about other scenarios that we think could happen. So for the Texans, I do have them moving up to the number 1 spot and taking Bryce Young. I got the Colts also moving up to number 2 and taking C.J. Stroud. I got the Cards taking Jalen Carter at number 3. I got the Bears going with Will Anderson at number 4. And I got the Panthers taking Will Levis at number 5. I got the Lions at 6 taking Christian Gonzalez, that cornerback, to bolster their secondary to pair up with Okudah and really make a strong secondary out there in Detroit. I got the Raiders taking Paris Johnson. If they sign Jimmy G, I think they take Paris Johnson. Or if they bring in Rodgers, I think they sign Paris Johnson to bolster up that offensive line for them. I think the Falcons will go Miles Murphy as an edge rusher. I think Seattle at number 9, I got them trading back to number 9 out of the 5 spot. And I had them taking Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher, via the Denver per trade with the Panthers. And then at number 10, I got the Eagles. I think the Eagles move on from Miles Sanders. And I had the Eagles taking Bijan Robinson to take his place so that they can deal with paying the other guys that they got to pay on that defensive side of the ball as well. And I will tell you this, the flip to that is if the Eagles don't take a running back and they do decide to re-sign Miles Sanders under contract, then I had the Eagles taking Jared Verse, the defensive end. And I think that they wind up letting go Charles Johnson off of that squad. And I think they franchise tag either the safety or the corner, Bradbury or the other guy. And I think they make those deals work that direction. So I think it really depends on what they do with Miles Sanders as to whether or not they go defense at number 10 or if they go running back at number 10. And I would say the caveat to the Texans is to go back to answer Anthony Price, do you draft scheme or do you draft best available? If you draft scheme, I think you're looking for Bryce Young. I think if you draft, best player available. There's nobody better in this damn draft than Carter. Jalen Carter is the best player in this draft. Unfortunately, he has a little bit of legal issue, but I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal. I think those misdemeanors get washed away. I think he moves on. And I think, if you're looking at best available, period, it's Jalen Carter. But I don't think he goes number one. I still think the Texans, and I think DeMeco Ryans wants his guy. This is his first team as a head coach. I think he wants his guy. I think his guy is Bryce Young, and I think he moves up to get Bryce because I think he's scared that the Colts will try to make that play to number one, and he doesn't want to lose out on it. That's just kind of my mindset. But wow, what a time, like you said, Frankie. How do you see this 10 unfolded for you?
Before I do that, I want to answer Anthony Price's question, asking me if I would trade Darren Waller. If I'm the Raiders, I honestly right now at this point I would have to trade Darren Waller. I mean, you're looking to reach. You're obviously looking to change something. You already got rid of Derek Carr, putting him in free agency, releasing him of his contract. We all know the relationship between Darren Waller and Derek Carr. If I'm Darren Waller right now at this point, I don't want to play for another quarterback. I'm not saying pull a Rob Gronkowski and follow Derek Carr. But if I'm Darren Waller, I mean, you can honestly go to a quarterback that's already been in this league for a couple of years and know what they're doing, especially a quarterback that loves to throw the tight ends. So if I'm the Raiders and I'm looking to get a higher draft pick, like the number one spot to the Chicago Bears, I wouldn't mind trading away Darren Waller. I mean, you got Justin Fields. All the Chicago Bears honestly will have to do is revamp that offensive line so they can give Justin Fields some time to find Darren Waller open. Darren Waller can get open on the field, but sometimes you gotta do what's best for business, man. This is a business. We love the sport, but this is a business at the end of the day. David Montgomery to the Eagles. That would be pretty wild, but I just don't think that the Eagles' mindset right now is to waste a lot of money on one running back, where they literally they have to think about re-signing some of their players that are hitting free agency. Like I said, they have 9 to 12 players that are hitting free agency. You're going to want to keep some of those players come free agency time. You don't want, the Chicago Bears have the number one space money to where they can sign some of these players that were on the Eagles who recently were just in the Super Bowl. So I don't think the Eagles' mindset is to sign down David Montgomery. But for the top 10, I see the Indianapolis Colts trading up with the Chicago Bears from the number one pick. And I do think that the Indianapolis Colts go with Bryce Young at the helm of quarterback position. Having Bryce Young be a pair with Jonathan Taylor, I think that will be, a great fit because, you don't have to worry about Bryce Young being a mobile quarterback. And like I said earlier, I don't see Bryce Young being a mobile quarterback. So having him worry about the passing attempts and having Jonathan Taylor, if he can stay healthy, worry about his rushing attempts, I think that'll be a great fitting for both of them. At the number 2 spot, I think Houston stays, and they also get a quarterback. I think they get C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud will be a perfect fit for Houston. I think that it will click well for C.J. Stroud in Houston. It might take a couple of years because we all know how bad Houston is, but normally sometimes we've seen that happen in the NFL. Look at the Detroit Lions; they were so bad for so many years to where this year they opened the eyes of many fans to say, "Wow, this is a team that can honestly be a playoff team." At number 3, I got the Arizona Cardinals picking up a defensive lineman in Jalen Carter. I think, right now Arizona has to worry about defense. I understand they don't have their quarterback. Kyler Murray is going to be out, honestly, half the year, if not maybe the entire year. I do see that Arizona goes defense because at this point in time, you have to ramp up your defense. The Cardinals didn't have a good defense last year, Jay. They were honestly terrible in defense last year. So I see Jalen Carter going number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. Pushing the Chicago Bears back to the number 4 pick, I see them going with an edge rusher and Will Anderson Jr. I think Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama is going to end up going to Chicago. I don't want to see the Chicago Bears get him, just because he's a defensive guy. And like I said, Chicago needs to start worrying about offense. But if they trade with the number 1 pick to the Indianapolis Colts, guess what? They have another first round pick in this year's draft, so they can possibly, excuse me, they can possibly get an offensive lineman later in this draft. So I see Will Anderson going number 4 to the Bears. At number 5, I got the Seattle Seahawks picking Tyree Wilson, another edge rusher. Um, Seattle Seahawks need to ramp up that defensive side. We've seen that they can have a good lead in the game, but they've given up so many games when they had the lead. I think that this is going to make Pete Carroll realize, okay, well, we need to start focusing on our defense and get our defense back to the way it was. And I think Tyree Wilson will be a perfect fit for Pete Carroll and Seattle Seahawks. By the way, that's a Texas Tech player. At
Hey,
6'6",
real quick,
200.
I did want to say one thing about what you just said. It's funny you said that because it's the last time Seattle had the number 4 pick or a pick in the top 5. Let's just put it that way. The last time Seattle had a pick in the top 5 was 2009, and they went linebacker Aaron somebody. I can't remember his last name, but either way, they went linebacker, and now you got them at number 5. Taking an edge rusher. So it's interesting. I agree with you personally. Like I said, I actually had them taking the same guy at number 9. But it's interesting that, both of us have them taking the same guy. And if that does come to fruition, then that means that both times that Seattle has had that number 5, pick within the top 5, they've drafted defense. Interesting.
Well, Pete Carroll's a defensive-minded coach, I mean, it's honestly the one thing Pete Carroll knows best is defense, and honestly, they didn't have a good defense last year. Like I said, they lost the lead in so many games where they could have, sealed the deal and get a win, but they didn't because their defense was not, they weren't healthy and they weren't that good. So I think that Pete Carroll will go edge rush on this one. Number 6, I got the Carolina Panthers having a trade with the Detroit Lions. I think the Carolina Panthers move up to select a quarterback, Will Levis. I think Will Levis will go to the Carolina Panthers because Sam Darnold is not the answer, and I don't think Baker Mayfield is there anymore. So who's really going to be there at the helm to take over Carolina? I mean, you're going to need somebody better than Sam Darnold, and I think that answer is going to be Will Levis. You got someone who's 6'3", tall, 232 pounds. He's fast on his feet. He's got a great arm. Work with him a little bit. I think the Carolina Panthers can work real great with Will Levis, and I think he'll do great in Carolina. So I got Carolina picking him. And then at number 7, I got the Las Vegas Raiders, not making any trade scenario because let's be real, all they need is a quarterback after losing Derek Carr. I think at number 7 they go with Anthony Richardson. I think Anthony Richardson from Florida, who we just talked about, 6'4", 232 pounds.
Yeah.
Sophomore out of Florida. I think he's going to be great with Josh McDaniels and having, your first year. You got Devontae Adams, you got Darren Waller, you got Henry Renfrow. Hopefully the Raiders can re-sign Josh Jacobs because he's hitting free agency. So, you got some good receiving core around you in Anthony Richardson, and being a tall quarterback, that means you got good arm length. So you should be throwing deep ball passes to Devontae Adams, who actually is a monster on the field who can actually catch any ball you throw to him. So I think Anthony Richardson goes number 7 to the Vegas Raiders. At number 8, I got Atlanta picking defensive lineman Myles Murphy from Clemson. The Atlanta, I mean, they're just a full mess up, Jay. They just got rid of Marcus Mariota. If I was the Falcons, I'll be looking at quarterback as well. But they're just a full mess everywhere. They're a full mess in the offense and they're a full mess in the defense. So I just think that it's best for them to just focus on the defenses first and worry about a quarterback in the near future. Probably go one more year with a trash quarterback. Maybe a Carson Wentz can go to Atlanta or something like that. But I think Atlanta goes with Myles Murphy. At number 9 is the Detroit, like I said earlier, the Detroit Lions, who made a trade with Carolina, moving back to the number 9 spot. I think they go cornerback with Christian Gonzalez. I've been watching this guy on a scouting combine, and this dude is he's amazing. He's a great defensive back, and I think he's going to be real good with the Detroit Lions. They don't need offense. They really don't need offense. Their offense is straight. They're good. So all they have to do is worry about that defense, and I think after adding Aiden Hutchinson last year and now getting Christian Gonzalez to worry about the quarterbacks and the safeties and stuff like that, I think Detroit will be set for
Oh,
really
absolutely.
good for next
Especially
year.
when you got a Cuda on the other side. And now you got two lockdown corners on either side of the field. And like you said, you got Aiden Hutchinson pressuring up the man, that's gonna be nasty.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. So I think they go Christian Gonzalez on that one. And then at number 10, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think honestly, I do think that they make a trade with Houston to go back number 12, and Houston comes at number 10 because, like I said, if Houston is going to go quarterback at number 2, they're going to need an extra help with C.J. Stroud. I do not think Brandon Cooks comes back with Houston. I do think he forced a trade because he was forcing a trade last year with Houston. They decided not to trade him. I think it happens this year. I don't know where he's going. It's been rumored that he's going to possibly come back to the Patriots, but I don't keep my high hopes on that, and I honestly don't want that to happen because he's honestly coming up of age. So, but I see, Houston moving up to the 12th or to the 10th spot with the Eagles, and they go with wide receiver Quentin Johnston.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah.
I think Quentin Johnson goes at number 10 to Houston because having him from TCU be with C.J. Stroud, having a early connection between those two can honestly make you a picture point of Justin or I'm sorry, Joe Burrow, and
Lamar.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's actually it's kind of funny. Me and you had we had majority of the same guys going to the teams. We just had the teams in different spots, but kind of taking the same people. So, I mean, there's a million different ways. Honestly, I think ultimately this draft will go, honestly. I don't know if I didn't hear you say Jalen. Who'd you have Jalen Carter going to, or do you have him out of the top 10?
Jalen Carter. I got Jalen Carter going to Arizona at number 3.
Okay, so me and you were on the same. We both had the Cards taking Jalen at number. Okay, yeah, man. Let me ask you this. I know you had the Raiders taking AJ or Anthony Richardson. Do you still have them bringing in Garoppolo and maybe having Richardson as a development, or are you putting Richardson right into the fire and just getting the experience right off the rip?
If I'm Josh McDaniels, I'm putting Richardson right at the fire and starting him off at the rip. I wouldn't go Jimmy G, just because yes, he has a connection with Josh McDaniels, but Josh McDaniels is not dumb. He's not going to go ahead and train someone who's been injured pro for the last 4 seasons. That would be, a mistake because what if you go ahead and you waste a draft pick or something, or even money to sign Jimmy Garoppolo and he gets hurt within 4 weeks of the season? Now you just screwed yourself out, and you don't have a good backup to back up Justin Jimmy Garoppolo. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm going quarterback with their number 1 pick, and from that guy from Florida, who we just said, Anthony Richardson.
Okay. Anthony Price says a couple of things. Number one, breaking news, and I looked at that too. Number one, obviously the NBA is investigating Ja Morant and the gun Instagram video. So he is under investigation by the NBA as well. But the Grizzlies have come out and said they're going to put him on a 2-game suspension. So they'll be without Ja Morant for 2 games. And then, of course, but then you still got to wait to see what the NBA does in terms of their investigation. So let me ask you this real quick. We know what the Grizzlies are doing. You know the NBA is investigating, Frankie. Do you think the NBA will come down and levy maybe more suspension time onto what he's already getting with the Memphis himself? Or do you think that because Memphis kind of said, okay, we're going to give him 2 games, that the NBA says, okay, you got 2 games, and we're not going to do anything more? How do you see that playing out?
I think Adam Silver is going to give him more. I don't think he's going to let this go on. I don't think 2 games is worth it. I think they're going to give him more just because this is something serious. This is an illegal weapon. This is a weapon that honestly could take a life of someone. So
Absolutely.
Adam Silver should look at this as a serious charge and give him more games. Maybe 5, maybe 8. Who knows? But that's not even
Yeah, because I
not
think
only are
if they
they
don't,
losing.
Frankie, I think if they don't, and then more comes up, with Ja, and he doesn't get straightened out, then then they're going to start holding the NBA accountable. Like, well, why didn't you give him more? Why was it just,
Exactly. And I just got news also. Not only is John Moran going to be suspended, the Memphis Grizzlies forward Brandon Clark has suffered season-ending injury on a left Achilles tear.
Wow.
He said New England is
Interesting. And I feel bad. I feel bad because Randy Jowers, he's a diehard Memphis guy, and that's the only team that Memphis really has. They only got one.
I don't feel bad.
Memphis only got one team.
I don't feel bad because you know what? He trash talks a lot, and I told him that the Memphis Grizzlies are not going to be a first-round exit. And guess what? This is going to prove everything.
Yeah. So what you're saying is Randy Jowers is still going to walk away with no ring, trying to talk trash. What a time to be alive. Anthony Price goes on to say, he says New England is where old players go to just say it. Well, I got to be honest with Frankie, if you don't mind. You know what? Hey, if that's where they go to play their careers, then that's where they go. Because last time I checked, the fuckers got 6 rings. So I guess they're doing something right over there, Frankie. I don't know.
I mean, Bill Belichick knows how to play with experienced players. What can I say? But I don't think that New England is anywhere right now where old players go. We're a young core team right now. Everyone around Mac Jones is pretty young. I think the only person that's old, it's got to be Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Other than that, I mean, we got Matthew Slater, we got Devin McCourty. Those guys are old, but they've been with the Patriots since they got drafted. So you can't consider them being a place where people go for New England when they're old. I mean, there is news. There is news. Like I said, Brandon Cooks is probably going to get traded to the Patriots. DeAndre Hopkins might be getting traded to the Patriots. But you know what?
And I know for a damn good well fact, if that was to happen, Frankie, I know for a fact you would not be upset about that at all.
I wouldn't. Honestly, I really wouldn't. Because
I wouldn't either.
We need an experienced receiver to help out Mac Jones right now.
Look, D-Hop and Cooks, even though they are a little older in the tooth, them dudes still got tread left on the tires, and they can still put up some numbers.
Oh, definitely. I mean, most definitely. The only reason why I'm not happy about the Brandon Cooks is because, like I said, he's up there in age, so I don't know how much longer he got in the
either way, hey, Frank, even if he gives you 1 or 2 years, hey, that's straight. And you probably won't have to, as long as they don't, and they're not going to overpay for him, so he'll come in, they'll give him 1 or 2 years. And look, you got Bill O'Brien, man. Bill O'Brien's got success as an offensive coordinator. So if you were to bring those two in, paired up with Mac Jones, the only thing I see an issue with the Patriots is you got to address that running game. I'm not convinced that you have the right running back in that system. But I think that's something you can pick up. What I'm saying is I think the Patriots could pick that up in the draft and not have to spend a whole lot of money there either.
We have a great running back. What are you talking about? Ramondre Stevenson is a beast.
Listen, man. I'm very familiar with the Patriots running game. You got to remember during fantasy football league this week, I got to know your running backs real well. And I'm not saying they're trash, but
you had Damian Harris
at that position.
You had Damian Harris, and he's a free agent this year.
That's true. I did have Damian Harris.
We have Ramondre Stevenson, who Logan had, and who actually took over the number 1 spot at running back from Damian Harris and put up over 1,000 rushing yards. If I'm not mistaken, he had over 1,000, maybe 200 rushing yards last year. So he had 1,200 rushing yards last year.
So I would imagine then that he'll probably get that full. Well, he will get it because, like you said, they're going to trade. Interesting.
Yeah, he's going to be our number 1.
We're gonna, and again though, correct me if I'm wrong though. Y'all had some injuries in that running game though. I think, which is
Damian Harris.
Yeah, because I remember, he got hurt and I couldn't use him, and then you wind up. You're right, Logan did pick up that guy. I was so pissed. I was like, damn it.
Actually, I had Damian Harris, and you actually traded away.
I did.
You traded away.
I traded away Lazard. I think I traded Alan Lazard for him, I think.
Yeah, you traded me Lazard for.
I was hooking you up, Frank. You didn't have a damn wide receiver, and I felt bad. So I was like, man, let me get this dude on damn wide receiver. And then you wind up trading somebody else, and I was like, son of a bitch, whatever.
Because I was so mad. I had the perfect lineup, and then everyone I had slowly deteriorated by getting injured and having season-ending injuries. I was down to just freaking third stringers and fourth stringers. It was really bad for me because this is why we don't do leagues with 20 people. I'm just saying.
Hey, Anthony, we're not going to give away our secrets yet. Next Saturday, we will be looking at draft picks 11 through 21. So every Saturday leading up to the draft, we're just going to keep breaking down this first round until we get done with the first round by time draft day comes. So, Anthony, you're going to have to come back for part 2 if you want to get Frankie's answer on that next Saturday. We will have more picks to talk about. So that will come your way.
If we're only going to do the first round, then that means we only got 2 more weeks of the first round before the draft. And
right.
The draft doesn't start until the end of April.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this Saturday will be 11 through 21, and then the last or the third Saturday or the Saturday after that, we'll just do 21 to the end. So, and that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. No, trust me, we will get through the first round fully through the first round before the draft happens. I promise you that will happen. And then if we have any time left over, maybe we'll dive a little bit into the second round. So we'll see where we get.
I will give you, Anthony President, I will give you a hint. I'm not going to give you my answer. No, I'm not that person. I'm not Jay. You're not going to get it out of me. But I will tell you this: I do see the New England Patriots picking up an offensive lineman. Who? I won't tell you. I'll tell you that next Saturday. But just know it's going to be an offensive lineman.
Frankie with the teasers. I love teasers. Man, my nipples just got hard. Frankie's like, yeah, my nipples are hard too, but Jay, but let me tell you something because I just got out of the snow.
Seriously.
Man, all right. Hey, let's get to some final thoughts, and then we're going to go chill out and relax, man. Frankie, man, what you got any final thoughts before we bolt up out of here?
No, man. All I got, is everybody enjoy your weekend. I'm over here enjoying this hockey game, Bruins versus New York Rangers. And it's amazing right now. The Bruins are up 2-1, and it's a really close game. These guys are literally you could tell it's a rival game because they're fighting after like every shot, Jay. It's like our teams start trying to fight each other. So that's what I like about hockey, and I'm just sitting back and I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah. Hey, my final thoughts before we get out of here is. The more we haven't got to the World Baseball Classic yet, but we're not far out of it. I think, what do we got, Frank? I think a couple of days. I mean, we're not that far off of the World Baseball Classic cranking up.
Yeah, a couple more days.
Yeah, but I'm already seeing players dropping out of the Baseball Classic due to injuries or things that's going on. So I'm kind of curious to see, who actually is going to be in this Baseball Classic and who's not going to be in this Baseball Classic. Just kind of give you a hint on that. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Is going to miss the Baseball Classic with an inflamed knee. And there's been a couple other players that have had some minor injuries as well. So I don't know, man. We'll see what kind of Baseball Classic we get. I think it's still going to be a good classic, trust me. But it's interesting to see some of these players dropping out for minor injuries.
Listen, all I know is if there's any Houston Astros players in the World Classic, please do get injured. We really appreciate it.
I don't. You know what? I think we got a couple on the pitching staff that's going to be out there in the Bay. I want to say it's not Luis Garcia. One or two of the Astros pitchers. I have to go back and look at. I don't want to give any bad names, but I know there's like 2 pitchers I believe that the Astros are going to be having in the Baseball Classic. Neither one of them will be for the U.S. I think it's Cuba or Dominican Republic or whoever it is they affiliate with, but. They will be in the baseball. I know 2 of the Astros pitch. I think everybody else is not. I think everybody else is staying at Kissimmee. But I think we do have 2 pitchers that are going to be in the Baseball Classic. So
good. Tommy John for both of them.
God, I hope not. Frankie, don't you wish that on me. I mean, I get it. Trust me. I mean, hey, listen, I'd say the same thing about New York Yankees, but y'all already got enough issues with injuries, so I'm not going to wish any more stuff on you than you already got to deal with.
Jay, we're not dealing with no injuries, but
Hey, listen, give it time. Give it time.
We do have injuries. We do have injuries right now on catchers, but it's like they're naming these catchers that I know we're not going to sign. We already have 2 catchers, Kyle Higashioka and Jose Trevino.
Hey, look, all I know is this. Old-ass Jacob deGrom that the Texas Rangers picked up already got left side soreness, already complaining about left side soreness. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Hey, make sure you guys check us out again. Make sure you're checking us out on Twitter, Unscripted Guys, all one word. Frankie does a hell of a good job keeping us up to date on all the latest ins and outs of the sports world. So check Frankie out over there at Unscripted Guys, all one word on Twitter. And then check young Logan out on TikTok at Unscripted Sports, all one word. And you can also catch us on YouTube. Just type in Unscripted and then whatever the date of the show it is you want to see. So Unscripted followed by the date, and you'll pull up all of our YouTube stuff over there as well. And also you can check us out on our Facebook page at Unscripted. Until next time, make sure you check our mobile app at ASAP Network on Google Play and Amazon. And also check us out at BetUS. Again, we are affiliated with them now, and you can use ASAP as your code and get a discount. I think that's about all the announcements. And until we will be back Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time with more Unscripted, man. So you guys be good, be square, and we will catch you on Tuesday. Also, check us out Monday morning for the baseball show at 9, and then afternoon blitz at 1 p.m. Eastern. So there you go. And we will see you guys back here Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Be good.